Hi, everyone. Vasu Vaddiparty here. This is the VPartySports Podcast for Saturday, December 17th, 2022. We are here early in the morning, 9 a.m. on the East Coast, 6 a.m. on the West Coast, as we get set for a big day of sports on this Saturday. Lots of football to talk about, bowl games, NFL games. We've got college basketball. This is the first weekend the college basketball gets to showcase themselves. The NHL has got 13 games on the ice as well. Also, we're headed toward Christmas and the holiday season. Hope everybody's having a good holiday season to start with. Thanks to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for joining us. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll be back at the same time, 9 a.m. Eastern, with a full NFL preview. Big Sunday in the NFL. This is week 15. 3 games on Saturday, most on Sunday, and then one on Monday. Of course, NCAA, NBA hoops as well. During the week, daily posts take place at 6 Eastern. And if you're looking for sponsorship inquiries, please contact me directly. Wanted to let you know that we're going to have the Daily Post not only in a couple hours. Saturday, we've got a lot of basketball. Not a lot of the lines are out yet at 9 a.m. Eastern. So at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock on the West Coast, we'll have the basketball lines and any hockey games for the best bet segments. So you can see that printed on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can reach me at VPartySports as well. As I said, we'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific with a full NFL preview, NCAA, NBA hoops, of course, a little NHL for a regular Sunday as well. This is the VPartySports Podcast. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. All right, let's get to Friday in the NBA first. We'll get to the NFL. We'll get to the best bet segments. We'll give you the best bets here on the show. And again, the Daily Post will have all the NBA, NCAA, NHL best bets for the day. All right, in the NBA, Friday night, Kyrie Irving. Believe it or not, this was the first game-winning shot at the buzzer he ever hit. It was tied at 116. Irving hits a 27-footer for the game-winning three as Brooklyn beats Toronto 119 to 116. This could come into play later if Toronto gets hot and they're in the playoffs. Brooklyn has swept Toronto this year for the season series. So 4-0 versus Toronto. The win comes after they were down by as many as 16, 17, 18. They were down 10 at the half. Nets methodically came back. Durant got his points. Kyrie Irving, the game winner at the buzzer, 119-116 for the Nets. Brooklyn was favored by 2. So you get the 3 and you cover at -2. The Hawks break a 2-game losing streak. Whatever's going on with Trae Young and Nate McMillan, the head coach, they break the 2-game losing streak. They are at 125 to 106 over Charlotte. They break a 2-game losing streak. Trae Young had 31 points. The Kings continue to play well. They roll and cover versus the Pistons. Pistons, 6.5-point underdog. Really hurting right now, but 9-point win for Sacramento, 122 to 113 over the Detroit Pistons. You see the standings at the bottom. You see the Boston Celtics right there, 22-8. Well, they lost for the third time at home this year. Only the third time they lost at home this year. They lose to the Orlando Magic of all teams, a 13-point favorite. The Magic only had 9 wins coming in. They were 9-20 coming in. Well, they got their 10th win, and they really took it to the Boston Celtics, 117 to 109, not only covering a 13 or a 13.5-point spread. The game barely went over 225.5. Got a basket late at the end for you over bettors. 225.5 the total. Orlando 117 to 109 over Boston. Did not see that coming. Only the third time that the Celtics have lost all year at home. The Cavaliers stay hot. They didn't cover. They had Indianapolis. They had Indiana. Tough game against the Pacers. They played well. They beat the Warriors 2 nights ago, but they stayed with Cleveland. In fact, they had a big lead. They had a 12-point lead in the fourth quarter, and yet the Cavaliers came back at -8. They did not cover, but they win 118 to 112. We'll get to the standings in a second. Continuing on with Friday, Philadelphia 76ers. How about this? The Warriors, no Steph Curry, bad shoulder. We know that. They start off 9 of 10 shooting. They go up big on Philadelphia. It looks bad if you've got the Sixers -10. I had the Sixers -10 tonight. Got lucky a little bit at the end with a couple of baskets to win by 12. But the final score, 118-106. It goes over thanks to Paul Reed. It covers the 10 thanks to Paul Reed. And Steph Curry not playing. It certainly hurt in the third quarter and fourth quarter for the Golden State Warriors without that offense. They had a big lead. They had a big lead in the first. They ended up only up by 2. And then after 3, they were down 7, the Warriors were. And then the final score at 118-106. Warriors now 14-16. Philadelphia improves to 16-12. Joel Embiid did his usual thing. He had 31, 34, and 13 rebounds. James Harden had 27 points. For those of you that laid the 10 points, were worried that he missed a few free throws there towards the end, but they were able to make that up. Thibault had a good game. Niang had a good game as well, too. Philadelphia's starting to round into shape here a little bit. All right, we move on here. How about the Knicks? The Knicks are playing well, too. The Knicks got their win. They're 16-13. They're rolling right now. They swept Chicago in Chicago. They've won 6 in a row. They're 7 out of the last 10. They blow out the Bulls, 114-91. Let's see who did what here in this game. Julius Randle had 19. 4 starters in double figures, 3 of them over 20. Brunson, Quentin Grimes, and Barrett, RJ Barrett, 27 points for him. He led the Knicks in scoring. Meanwhile, nobody over 20 for the Bulls. DeRozan only had 14 on 6 of 14 shooting. Patrick Williams had 10. Vucevic got held under double digits, as did Caruso, and nobody else did anything. They shot 46%, so it wasn't too bad. The Knicks only shot 40%, but their three-point percentage was very good at 38.6. So effective field goal percentage, if you're into the analytics, you can see how they got 114 points. They outscored the Bulls in this game. In the second half, they outscored them by 11, by 18 in the second half to get the 23-point victory. They go into Chicago. They get a tough overtime win Wednesday night, and then they come back and blow out the Bulls again. Bulls are in trouble. They may be looking to make some trades. DeMar DeRozan's name was out there in terms of trades. But the Knicks, a 2.5-point underdog, almost a 3-point underdog, 225.5 the total, stayed way under, and they covered the 3 very easily. That might have been the best bet of the night. I know I didn't pick them because I thought the Bulls would come back and play a little bit better, maybe a little Chicago bias on my part, but the Knicks came back and blew them out, 114-91 after that big overtime win. Dallas, who had been struggling a little bit, they beat up on Portland tonight, 130-110. It was Doncic who had the big night. He had 33, I thought I saw. Yeah, 33, 6 rebounds, 9 assists. Lillard only had 24, but he was 6 of 14, so he made some threes that went with that. He had 3 of 8 on 3, so it wasn't even that good of a night for him. 16 for Watford off the bench. Nurkic had 16 as well, but Dallas, who had been struggling, they are out of the playoff picture. They're in the 9th spot right now. They were out of the playoff picture. 6-4 in their last 10. They were only 1.9 point differential. Portland dropped all the way from 4th to 6th. They're 5-5 over their last 10, and they are 9-7 on the road. They usually cover, and they've been red hot covering, but they did not cover tonight. They got blown out by Dallas. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they didn't have Rudy Gobert tonight. They were a 4.5-point underdog against Oklahoma City. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had a good game, but the Timberwolves come away with a 112-110 win. They cover the 4.5 in Oklahoma City. Let's see, anybody did anything there box score-wise. Let's see. Naz Reid had 28 for Minnesota, filling in for Gobert. Rivers had 20. Anthony Edwards, 19. For the Oklahoma City, of course, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, 35 points. He's 4th in the league in scoring. I'll make sure I get that right. I believe he's 4th in the league in scoring. He's 3rd in the league in scoring at 31 a game. After tonight, he's behind Embiid, and he's behind Doncic. Embiid had 34. That's right at his average of 33.3. And the Lakers were down 10 to Denver. They were +2 tonight. They had a big fourth-quarter separation against the Nuggets. And I'm going to say this is the best win of the year for the Lakers because they were hurt. Denver was coming in on all cylinders. They just beat up on Washington. The Lakers outscored them 62-43 in the second half after the game, after Denver had a 1-point lead at the half. 126-108, the final score. The Lakers end up beating Denver by 18. They covered the 2 easily. It almost went over. 236.5 was pretty high, but they did not get the buckets needed in the over for the game right there. You see the Western Conference standings going across now. Memphis at 19-9, New Orleans at 18-10, Denver 17-11 after the loss, Phoenix 17-12, Sacramento 16-12, Portland 16-13, Utah 17-14. The Clippers are 17-14, Dallas 15-14 after the win tonight. Minnesota 14-15. They are in the 10th spot. As you know, 10 teams make it. Once again, through the East, Boston at 22-8, Milwaukee 20-8, Cleveland 19-11, Brooklyn 18-12. They're playing really well now. Brooklyn's starting to play really well. Philadelphia at 16-12, the Knicks 16-13, Miami 15-15. They're tied with Indiana. They have the tiebreaker. They're 15-15. Atlanta, they fall the tiebreaker on the short side. They're 15-15 also. And Toronto's still in the 10th spot after that Irving jumper sent them home in a tie game, a 3-point loss to the Brooklyn Nets. They are at 13-16. All right, we move on here to college basketball. A little bit to talk about on Friday. Conference play starting. This is the last big weekend for non-conference games. A lot of classics, a lot of tournaments, a lot of sponsorship deals, kind of like the NCAA football bowl games. Lots of sponsorships going. But the Big East did play. They have 2 games tonight. Xavier had their first Big East game, as did Georgetown. They covered 11 points. It took them a while to do it, but they ended up beating Georgetown 81-70. 83-70. Let me make sure I got that right here. 83-70, the final score. At one point, it ended up at 102-89. Xavier over Georgetown. The game went way over. Marquette hands Creighton their 6th straight loss. Creighton started out 6-1 this year, but they've lost 6 straight, so they're at 6-6 right now as the season goes on. And then one game out west, Stanford blows out Green Bay. They were a 24.5-point favorite. They blow out Wisconsin Green Bay 85-40. But the Big East in big time this weekend. They're going to continue tomorrow with a couple of games going on as well. Tomorrow, we have 18 top 25 teams playing. A big day in the NCAA. We're going to go through this list right now before we take a break, but there's a lot to look at. The lines aren't out for every game, but we'll give you the lines, and we'll post it at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern for the best bet segment, because there's a lot to look at here on Saturday. You got early in the morning, you got Indiana at number 14 visiting Lawrence to pick on the number 8 Kansas Jayhawks. Number 25 Miami plays. They play St. Francis of Pennsylvania. Miami started off 10-1. Number 4 Alabama, fresh off their upset over Houston, number 1 last week. They are taking on Gonzaga in the CM Newton Classic. They'll be in Alabama. I believe they're going to be in Birmingham, Alabama. So not a true home game for Alabama. But Gonzaga and Alabama will play. Gonzaga number 15, Alabama number 4 in the country. Gonzaga coming off the win last week, 8-3 against 9-1 Alabama. Number 5 Houston, off that loss last week. They will go to Charlottesville. Calvin Sampson's not afraid to play anybody. He's got a great defense. Virginia's got a great defense. The difference between number 2 Virginia this year and last year is that they've got a better offense going. So number 2 Virginia versus number 5 Houston in Charlottesville tomorrow morning, West Coast time, 11 a.m., 2 o'clock on the East Coast. Number 17 Mississippi State, they will take on Nichols. CBS Sports Classic, 2 games tomorrow, 2 good games. Ohio State 7-2 at number 23 versus North Carolina. And then UCLA at number 16, fresh off their blowout win at Maryland versus number 13, Kentucky. Both games will be at Madison Square Garden. It's called the CBS Sports Classic. Number 10, Arkansas will host Bradley. Number 18, Illinois will host Alabama A&M. Number 24, Virginia Tech will host Grambling. As we move on to the NCAA down here, we've got 7 games. Where are we at here? I had them right here. Here we go. NCAA, Purdue at number 1 now in the country. They're going to host Davidson, and that'll be followed by UConn and Butler. Number 3, UConn at Butler. That's going to be the Indy Classic. Both teams playing, Davidson, Purdue, UConn, Butler. Both are going to be in Indianapolis at the Hinkle Fieldhouse for Butler, and then the Indy Classic for Purdue will be in Indianapolis at the Gamebridge Fieldhouse where the Indiana Pacers play. So both are going to be in Indianapolis. 4 good teams to play. Don't underestimate Davidson. They're going up against number 1 Purdue. Nebraska gave Purdue a tough time. That's an in-conference game that Purdue played last week. And UConn, number 3, has been playing well. They can shoot. And Butler has been tough defensively. I don't know if they can match up with UConn. Again, no lines out yet, but we'll have them for you. We'll have them for you in the next couple hours. We'll put them out on the Best Bets segment on the Daily Post on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then the best game of the night, maybe in McHale Center in Tucson. Number 9 Arizona will host the number 6 Tennessee Volunteers. Arizona Wildcats come in with a record of 9-1, as does Tennessee. ESPN has Arizona slightly favored by 54% to 46%. They can run. They can put up points on the board. 92 points a game, only giving up 75. Tennessee behind Rick Barnes plays solid defense. They only allow 51 points a game. They score 74. They shoot 40% from the field, but they get 42.4 rebounds. That's right there with Arizona. Arizona can run. Tennessee can run. It's a matter of who's going to play defense. The early over-under is unofficial, but it's 148.5, and it looks like Tennessee is a 3.5-point underdog. So a very interesting matchup. So a lot of top 25 games going on tomorrow. There are a lot of other games to go with. In addition to the top 25, the Big East will continue. Seton Hall will play Providence. The West Coast will be represented by the University of San Francisco. They're 8-3. They visit UNLV. How about UNLV? They're 10-0. Shout out to the Runnin' Rebels down in Vegas. They're going to host USF, who came off a big win last week over Creighton against Creighton when they played them in Las Vegas. They were an underdog against Creighton, and UNLV is 10-0. They have played well. They beat Creighton as well last week in that tournament that they had last weekend. So a big day in college basketball. 18 of the top 25 teams are going to play tomorrow, starting off with Indiana, Kansas City, the CBS Sports Classic. UCLA, Kentucky will be a good game. Alabama, Gonzaga, number 4 and number 15. A huge one in Charlottesville, a true road game for Houston as they go on to play number 2 Virginia. Houston, number 5, after being number 1 for the last few weeks as well. And then number 10, Arkansas, Illinois, Virginia Tech. And then the big one is the number 6 Tennessee Volunteers going to McHale Center to play the number 9 Arizona Wildcats in Tucson. All right, when we come back, this is the V Party Sports Podcast. Don't forget, we'll be back on Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, with a full NFL preview. We'll preview the NCAA, NBA hoops. Daily posts are 6 o'clock on the weekdays, 3 o'clock Pacific time. And on the weekends, we'll have them up by 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. This is the V Party Sports Podcast. When we come back in 60 seconds, a full Saturday of NFL games, 3 NFL games to go into, and we'll get into the bowl games as well, too, right here on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. So thanks to everybody for joining us this morning. Don't forget the replays will come up. So if you missed any of the information or the best bet segment, the world famous, unprecedented, never duplicated best bet segment, you can always catch them on replay every hour on the hour until noon Eastern. Back with you in 1 minute. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty with the V Party Sports Podcast. All right, welcome back. Vasu Vaddiparty here with the V Party Sports Podcast for the Saturday morning. Forget if you missed the show at 9 a.m. when we started. You can always catch it on loop every hour on the hour until tip-offs and kickoffs until noon Eastern. And we'll have our daily posts at 11 a.m. today with best bets for the NBA and NCAA on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thanks to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for joining us on the broadcast itself. There's just no lines out there for us to make best bets, make educated bets today. And that we want to give you the best information possible. I went 4-2 today on my best bets picks. So if you follow me on Instagram and you see the daily post, you'll see what we did at 6 o'clock today. You'll see the daily bets that we had. 1-1 in the bowl games. although UAB should have covered that game. And then 4-2 in the NBA tonight, Marquette as well. So the total of 4-2 as well. Let me make sure I got this right here because I'll make sure 1-1 in the college bowl games. Philadelphia had lost on Cleveland. I don't remember, but anyway, ended up winning more than I'm losing, and that's the bottom line. We're going to start tracking our bets, and we're going to make sure we do that. But right now, today, I'm going to start tracking the bowl bets. So 1-1 in the bowl bets, and we will go from there as we go on to the Daily Post tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern before NFL football. Don't forget, in a couple hours, we'll have the best bets as well. All right, the NFL, as we look at it now, let's go back Thursday night first before we hit Saturday's game. How about that game? The San Francisco 49ers, boy, they have won 7 in a row. They've only allowed 77 points in those 7 games. They allowed 13 to the Seattle Seahawks last night. They clinched the NFC West. They win behind Brock Purdy, a 3-point favorite, 21-13, the final score. The 49ers now 10-4. Don't look now. Minnesota plays the first game this afternoon at 1 o'clock Eastern on NFL Network. They're hosting the Indianapolis Colts. And we know Indianapolis has struggled, but there's a reason that Minnesota is only a 3.5-point favorite. And we'll get to that in a second. But let's get back to the 49ers. And the reason I bring up Minnesota right now in this part of it is Minnesota's 10-3. The 49ers have a better conference record than Minnesota. And that's the first tiebreaker for 2 teams that are out of division. And San Francisco, they keep playing like this, and that defense keeps holding up. 77 points in 7 games. They haven't allowed more than 17 in this 7-game winning streak. That was to Miami. 13 is the second most, and this was to Seattle on Thursday night. Seattle now falls to 7-7. They are going to have a tough time getting in the playoffs. They have the tiebreaker over Detroit. Detroit's 6-7. They beat Detroit earlier, but that's for the 8th seed. The Giants and Washington are ahead of them. Now, Seattle did beat the Giants. They have not played Washington. Washington has a better conference record, so it's going to be tough for them to catch the Commanders, but they still got a chance to catch the Giants for the number 7 spot. But don't underestimate the Detroit Lions, who've won 5 out of 6. But the 49ers are 10-4. Don't forget, Brock Purdy. How about this miracle ride continuing? He hit George Kittle for 2 touchdowns. He looks like a savvy veteran. How about that double fake to both sides and the tight end down the middle? Kittle going in for the touchdown. Then he found Kittle deep down the left side. 4 catches for George, 93 yards, 2 touchdowns. Brock Purdy, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns passed. McCaffrey, his over-under was 65 yards. He rushed for 108, and when you really needed him, he came through big time. He had 30 yards receiving as well. But that defense is what's been doing it. They got to Geno Smith only once, but the constant pressure that they put on him all night limited him to 217 yards. And Seattle's been leaking oil. They've given up a lot of points. They've lost 4 out of 5, and they're lucky to still be in the 8th spot right now. All right, move on to Saturday. The ticker will go at the bottom. Minnesota is a 4-point favorite. I saw it at 3.5 tonight, so we'll update that for the post-game show. But 4-48 against Indianapolis. Here's what's at stake for Minnesota. They're 2 back of Philadelphia. They are not going to catch Philadelphia. Philadelphia beat them on Monday night, week 2. So that tiebreaker probably favors Philadelphia. Philadelphia's going to end up having the best record. They've got to win this game. They're 6-1 at home. They've got to win this game to keep the 49ers off their back, as we said, because the 49ers are playing as well as anybody. They and Philadelphia are the 2 teams going right now. And if San Francisco has any inkling of getting in the number 2 spot where you get a home game, the only way you wouldn't get a home game is if you end up having to play Philadelphia in the championship game. But you could end up with a home game because anything can happen in the playoffs, as we know. 10-4 for the 49ers, 10-3 for the Vikings. A loss by Minnesota to Indianapolis put San Francisco in the number 2 spot, and after 14 games. So Minnesota, 4-point favorite. I don't think they're going to have any trouble with Indianapolis, but you never know based on how the Colts have been playing. The one thing that Minnesota does not do, they don't stop the run all that well. And the Colts do have Jonathan Taylor going with them right now. And it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Now, Minnesota does score a lot of points. They give up a few points. 48 might be a little high, though, because I have not seen Indianapolis score a lot this year. All right, the middle game, 4:35 Eastern, 1:35 Pacific time. All these games on NFL Network, 1 o'clock, 4:15, and then 8:15 Eastern times. Cleveland, a 3-point favorite over Baltimore. Tyler Huntley is questionable. Lamar Jackson's out, so he's not going to be in. Cleveland, a 3-point favorite. Deshaun Watson in 2 games has improved. Cleveland's still not great. The Ravens are tied for first with the Cincinnati Bengals, but they have the tiebreaker. They beat the Bengals early in the year. Both are at 9-4. And behind Tyler Huntley, the Ravens have been getting by. They got by Denver. And they got by last week in that 14-12 victory that they had over Pittsburgh. Cincinnati will have Tampa Bay on Sunday. We'll give you a little glimpse of it right now before we get to the full preview on Sunday. But Baltimore, a 3-point underdog, 38 the total. You can't expect a lot of points to be scored. I don't think Baltimore can put up a lot of points, but I don't think Deshaun Watson can handle the defense of the Baltimore Ravens right now. They've got Nick Chubb. He's second or third in the league in rushing, and their pass rush has been pretty good. So maybe they can put some pressure. Maybe it's not a bad line. Cleveland -3 against Baltimore. I just don't see it. I just don't see it for Cleveland to win. Baltimore has won games in so many different ways right now, and I can see them still winning. But if Cincinnati wins and Baltimore loses, boy, the Bengals are red hot right now, and they could overtake the Ravens for first place. The night game, Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins are going to Buffalo. They beat Buffalo early in the year, so they have the tiebreaker. They're 8-5. They're 2 back. Buffalo, a 7-point favorite, 44 the total in the game. It was a 21-19 game. Bills went for it on 4th down, down by 8 late in the game. Couldn't get that touchdown that they needed, or down by 4, I think it was. I'll have to go back and look at it. We have a producer here. I could have somebody look that up for me. But Miami is 3-4 on the road. They're 2-1 in the division, so they've got that in their favor. They're 1-0 against Buffalo. They beat them early in the year, as we said. Buffalo, number 1 seed in the AFC, 10-3. They're tied with the Chiefs for that top spot. They beat the Chiefs early in the year. 7-point favorite. Miami has leaked oil a little bit. They got beat up by San Francisco. They went into Los Angeles last week and lost to a team that has been pretty injured all year in the Los Angeles Chargers. The Dolphins could not take advantage of injured offensive line. Justin Herbert was outstanding, and they come away with their second loss in a row. A win by Miami will put them a game back. They'll have swept the series against Buffalo, and they'll still have a shot at the division, believe it or not. But right now in the playoff scenario, they're in the 6th spot. They're behind Cincinnati. They're ahead of New England by a game, and the Chargers by a game. And the Jets by a game as well, too. And the Jets are in their division as well. And the Jets beat them. The Jets beat Miami early in the year, too. So Miami could either find themselves closer to the top, or they could fall pretty close to the bottom after tomorrow night's game. Buffalo -7, 44 the total there. All right, well, what do you think? Send me your comments on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Subscribe to the channels. Let me know what you think. Big day on Saturday for the NFL. All right, let's get to the bowl games here a little bit. We got some bowl games to go with tomorrow. Let me put that up. I didn't put the graphic up for it, but there's 6 bowl games tomorrow. Cincinnati, Louisville, Florida, Oregon State, Washington, Fresno State, Rice, Southern Miss, SMU, BYU, and North Texas and Boise State. How many of you are going to take those bowl games tomorrow with a full NFL schedule of 3 games that go from 1 o'clock Eastern all the way till 11 o'clock at night, and then all the college basketball, 18 of the top 25 teams going at it tomorrow? It's going to be interesting to see. We'll give you best bet segment. I do like a couple of these games in the college games tomorrow as well. But a big day tomorrow. Let's hit the Sunday games for a little bit. Just a little sneak peek at Sunday. The New Orleans Saints are going to host Atlanta. Atlanta still with an outside shot at the division, though they've lost. They split the season series with Carolina, and they've lost to Tampa Bay. They have one more game with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay leaking oil. You can see that with San Francisco. New Orleans completely out of it. They've got 9 losses. Mike White is out for the Jets. They're going to go back to Zach Wilson. The line has changed. The Lions won 5 out of 6. They're now a 1.5 favorite. I would have never thought, and those people in Detroit, you can tell me, I would have never thought the Lions would be a road favorite into Week 15 of the NFL season, or Week 14 in terms of game-wise, Week 15, as a road favorite at the New York Jets, who have an above 500 record. Kansas City at Houston, those double-digit favorites on the road. We saw what happened with the Cowboys, though they were at home, but that was 17.5 against Houston. Philadelphia at my Bears next on Sunday, 48.5. Philadelphia trying to maintain that best record. The Bears trying to, I don't know, maybe they are trying to go for the first draft pick again. Carolina 3 over Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett, concussion protocol. Not sure of his injury. Let's see. Pickett's out, so Trubisky, who threw 3 interceptions last week, he could be in there as well, too. Mason Rudolph, also the third-string quarterback. Don't know who's going to go for Mike Tomlin. That loss last week hurt their chances of even having a chance at the wild card. Carolina, 3-point favorite. They won at Seattle last week. They are hot right now. They've won 3 out of the last 4. If they run the table, including a win over Tampa Bay and over Atlanta, they can end up winning the division. They've got 8 losses. They can end up 8-8 and end up winning that division. There's only going to be one team out of that division going to the playoffs, so it'll be interesting. And then Dallas, 4-point favorite, could be a trap game with Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence has played well this year. 48 the total. The lines at the bottom for the NFL: Minnesota -4, 3.5 in some places, 48 versus Indianapolis. Cleveland 3 versus Baltimore, 38 the total. Buffalo 7, 44 versus Miami. All right, the bowl games tomorrow, 6 of them. 7 NBA games tomorrow. 7 NBA games tomorrow. As we said, the Pelicans will visit the Suns. The West top team, Memphis, will be playing tomorrow. Milwaukee will host Utah. Pelicans visit, the Suns will visit Oklahoma City. The Pelicans will visit the Suns. Let's see what we have here. Let me make sure I got this right here. Pelicans visit the Suns. The Grizzlies will go to Oklahoma City. And Milwaukee hosts Utah. Portland, Houston, Cleveland, who beat Dallas last week, will host Dallas. Miami, San Antonio will play Mexico City. And Washington will visit the Clippers. John Wall will face his former team again. And then again in college basketball, 18 top 25 teams playing tomorrow. You see them right there. We went through them already. The big ones: Indiana, Kansas, UCLA, Kentucky, Alabama, Gonzaga, Houston, and Virginia. And then at night, Purdue and Davidson, but Tennessee, Arizona, the big one as well. All right, the never duplicated, world famous, unprecedented best bets segment for Saturday. Again, don't forget to check out Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at 11 Eastern for the basketball and hockey picks for the day. Any other games that we might have, we might add some bowl games in there as well too, but not all the lines are out, so that's why we'll wait till 11 o'clock to post them on Instagram and Twitter before kickoff and before tip-offs for all the basketball and all the football. In the NFL tomorrow, the line did go down to 3.5. I have Minnesota -3.5 over Indianapolis. They're going to maintain that number 2 spot. They're going to shut down Jonathan Taylor. They're going to hold off on the quarterback controversy that they have with Indianapolis. Buffalo -7. I just think Miami's leaking oil on the road right now. Mike McDaniel saying, make it colder, make it colder. I don't know if he wants it that cold, but a 7-point favorite for Josh Allen and that team. As long as they don't have red zone turnovers, that's been their biggest bugaboo right now. So Buffalo -7. 2 bowl games to go with. The Jimmy Kimmel Bowl, that's the only bowl name I'm going to mention because I think it's very funny that Jimmy Kimmel has a bowl. It's going to be Washington State, and they're going to be playing Fresno State. Washington State has had some good games this year. They played Oregon very tough middle of the year. That was at home. This will be in LA. This will be at SoFi. Fresno State, a 4-point favorite. I like Washington State +4. Now, Florida's going to have some players that aren't going to play in the bowl game tomorrow. They're 6-6, and Oregon State's had a good year at 9-3. But I just think 8.5 is too much for this Pac-12 team. The SEC, very physical. Florida was very physical this year. 8.5 points seems like a lot for the Las Vegas Bowl. They're going to be at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. The Washington State-Fresno game will be at 12:30 Pacific time. So I like Florida at +8.5 and Washington State at +4. And don't forget, again, the Daily Post will be coming up at 11 a.m. Eastern for the NBA, NCAA. If we have any other bowl games or any amendments on the NFL games or college games, we'll let you know. But that's going to do it for me. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty, the VPartySports Podcast. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll be here 9 a.m. Eastern for a full preview of the NFL Week 15. Playoff scenarios abound. NCAA, NBA hoops as well. We'll loop it back every hour on the hour until kickoff. Don't forget, if you're interested in sponsorships, please inquire me. Contact me directly through Facebook and Twitter or Instagram at VPartySports. You can also reach me on my YouTube channel as well, too. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Enjoy this big Saturday of college basketball, NFL football, NCAA, NBA. There's also some NHL games. There's 13 games on the ice today as well, too. We'll get to that as well sometime. We just didn't have enough time to get to the NHL, but it's a big day for college basketball, a big day for NFL football, and a big day for college basketball and NBA as well. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. This is the VPartySports Podcast. Have a great afternoon. Have a great evening. Good luck with all your games, and we will see you soon. Don't forget the loops and the replays. If you missed the best bet segment or any of the other information, feel free to check out the loops as we go every hour on the hour until tip-off and kickoff. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. Have a good afternoon. Have a good evening, everybody. Take care. We'll see you on Sunday at 9 a.m.